Boom shakalaka, ladies and gentlemen, freaks and geeks, brothers and sisters around the world. It is your boy Chris Yule, aka the Esoteric Noetic. I'm about to drop some serious wisdomatic truth bombs here. I'm going to talk about a topic that you probably come across if you were interested in weird science, freaking magic, metaphysics, spirituality, occult knowledge, or just call yourself a hippie. This is the topic of the Archons. Who are the Archons? What are the Archons? Now, this idea is something that is found in the ancient Gnostic writings. Gnosticism, in case you're not aware, is one of the oldest traditions. Most of the Western knowledge that we have can be traced back to Gnostic writings. So Christianity, one of the earliest branches of Christianity, was Gnosticism. This is an idea, philosophy, a wisdom tradition that permeates so much of Western culture, Eastern culture. It can be traced back to the time of Hermes Trismegistus, who was the great genius of the ancient world, Egypt, also known as Thoth or Enoch. In short, the Archons were an evil group of people, a mock creation. In order to understand the Archons, we need to go into the creation story according to Gnosticism. In short, before the arrival of humans, before the arrival of this Maya illusionary world that has been referred to in the Vedic scriptures, creation required this process of experimentation, where the divine being, the supreme being of all that it is, would essentially create different things. And through this experiment, for lack of a better word, known as a polarization experiment, where essentially from my understanding of it, the essence of good, light, was manifested with a polarization, creating a negative side of that, creating darkness, evil. Now, this creation that had never been seen before in the universe. Now, typically when something is created, it goes through levels of creation. It goes through the mineral stage, the vegetable stage, the animal stage, the human stage, and then the planetary stage, the galactic stage, until eventually moving into a universal stage. So basically the levels of consciousness. And this creation, when it formed, would go about this. Now, this creation behaved very differently to all the other creations of this supreme being, and started manifesting ideas that were contrary to this universe, life, existence. Now, of course, because this had never been witnessed, the supreme being, God, Allah, Krishna, Buddha, Sophia, as it's referred to in the Gnostic traditions, essentially tried to aid this being by correcting it, by giving it more and more energy. Rather than shutting this thing down that was manifesting these horrible traits, it would try to aid this and give it more and more energy until it became, rather than changing, it just grew and grew until it became this incredibly powerful being that created its own universe in time once it had reached all the levels of creation, and created the universe that we are currently in, this Maya. One of the greatest stories ever told that a lot of people are not aware of, but this is one of the oldest traditions. So essentially the universe that we have now, Maya, was ruled under an entity known as the Demiurge, which a lot of people refer to as God, but it was actually the mock creation, a fake creation. And its beings that it created, these mock fake beings, were known as the Archons. So essentially you have the divine beings, normal human beings, and then you had the Archons. Now, in addition to that, you also had these beings known as non-theomorphs, basically mock beings, non-theomorphic beings. Now, these were beings that the divine being, the divine mother, had tried to save. So essentially the divine being had come into this creation of this Demiurge and tried to save the creations of this Demiurge by flooding it with energy, positive energy, light, over and over and over again. Now, granted, this sounds like a very advanced, airy-fairy concept, but I'm condensing a lot of information here. So in short, this divine being tried to correct many of the creations of the Demiurge. And over time they changed over eons and eons and eons, but they were not fully beautiful creations of the divine. They still had this element of the Demiurge, and these were known as the non-theomorphs. They weren't whole in the sense that true divine creations were. And there were other beings that just completely denied any attempt from the divine, Sophia, to be corrected. And these were known as the Archons. These were the manifestations of darkness, evil, negativity. Now, I understand that this worldview very much moves away from the New Age ideas. Most of the ideas within New Age philosophy, from Helena Blavatsky of the Theosophical Society, from Annie Besant, C.W. Leadbeater, which have formed the basis of understanding that most people have in this world, New Age hippie ideas. This runs very much against these ideas, because most people are taught to believe that everything is one and there is no darkness. Darkness and light are the same thing. But this is actually the oldest tradition, Gnosticism, at least that we are aware of in the Western world. And you'll find most writing of this will go back to Pythagoras, this will go back to Hermes Trismegistus. There is actually a lineage, like a history that you can follow when it comes to so much of this information. People like Helena Blavatsky were synthesizing a lot of the information from Vedic scripture, from Eastern schools, but you will find that the oldest tradition that we are aware of, at least in the Western world, echoes this idea. There's so many religions like Zoroastrianism, Manichaeism, the Gnostic traditions, the Greeks, the Pythagoreans, followers of Pythagoras. They followed these Gnostic teachings, and they had to hide much of this information because they'd be persecuted. The Gnostics were persecuted by the Romans. They were persecuted by so many people that they had to hide their information, because this information was a threat to the establishment. But essentially, the Gnostic teachings taught that you could redempt your spirit from this Maya, this illusionary world, and essentially return to the divine source. And that there were many light workers that came from the divine creation in order to save so many of the beings that had been trapped in this creation, whether they were the non-theomorphs, so these mock beings that had been aided by the divine being, or whether they were beings of light that had come into this universe of the Demiurge in order to try to help the beings that were trapped here. But anyway, this is an interesting concept, something to consider. I just wanted to drop that. It's something that you don't hear a lot of people talking about. It's one of the most esoteric ideas. But check it out. Check out the Gnostics. Check out the Archons. A lot of people have related the Archons to the ufology scene. They've also been referred to as these negative beings known as the reptilians. But maybe I'll go into that another time. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know if you want to hear more wisdomatic truth bombs dealing with esoteric mystery school knowledge, or you want me to talk about bitches and Bitcoin. It's all good either way. Give us a thumbs up if you like this video, thumbs down if you hated it. Drop some comments. Love the comments. Be sure to check out my Facebook group, the Instagram, the TikTok. Do a lot of things. I'm a singer, dancer. Peace out, keep it real, don't drive and text. This is your chocolate Nubian soul brother, the Esoteric Noetic.
What is liberty?
What the? Who says you can't build muscle on a vegan diet?
What's it like being a hottie in the vegan community? Are vegan guys better?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
The economics of the system don't allow multiple competing systems to survive.
Engineering, technology, these arts of humanity, they are magic.